Once upon a time, once upon a time, once upon a time, and once upon a time, there was a village. In the village there was a hut. In the hut lived a woman, and the woman had a baby. This baby had a beautiful right eye, a beautiful right ear, a beautiful right cheek, a beautiful right arm, and a beautiful right leg. And as for her parents, they were not very rich, but they were not poor either, so they were raising the baby quite all right without much trouble. And as you would imagine, as this baby grew a little, she started feeling a little uneasy. She started developing this feeling of something missing, of something not being quite all right. And as she grew a little more, she realized that she was only half a girl. And you know how kids are, they are not sometimes very sure about what they are feeling, and especially in case of this girl, nobody made her feel that way, that something is missing or that she was half a girl. Nobody had ever brought it up, made any even passing comment to her, and so she wasn't quite sure if it was all in her head or if that was actually the case. But as she realized that she was only half a girl, it became too much for her to keep it to herself. So eventually she approached her mother first and asked her about her situation and told her how she felt, and asked her why she was the way she was. But the mother, with her motherly love and affection, didn't really answer the questions but deflected them. And so the girl tried and tried and tried until she came to the conclusion that she's not going to get the answer from her mother. So in desperation, she returned to her teachers, but the teachers didn't seem to have much to say about it either. So this half girl from the village, she didn't give up that easily. She kept going around asking people about the questions she had in her head, about her situation, how she felt, and about her condition. But she felt a little at times brushed off, at times not being taken seriously. She failed to get people interested in her situation. So she resigned to the fact that she's not going to get the answer to her question, and then maybe it's just her. The problem is in her head, that she feels incomplete, that she feels something is missing, that she thinks that she's only half the girl because nobody else has really taken up those questions or taken interest in that situation. But apart from that, the life was pretty good. She was loved, she was taken care of, and she was going to the school and, getting good grades and making progress in life. So with this, she moved on, continued living her life like all the other kids in the village, until one day she was sitting in her cottage or hut, looking through the window, and she looked at this door that was used to let people in and out of the village, because the village was protected by a boundary wall. It was a pretty prosperous, self-sufficient village. Not a lot of people used to go out of the village, and neither people from other places used to visit this place either. And so the door she's staring at, the village door, it used to remain shut for most of the time. She's staring at this door, and a sudden urge rises within her to walk up to the door, open, and see what lies behind it. So she gets up, walks up to the door, opens it. It's a little rusty. It hasn't been opened in a while. She opens it. It makes cracking sounds as it opens, and she sees a road in front of her. It's not a very long road. She could see the end of the road, because at the end of it, it has a bend. It turns a little bit to the right. So she starts walking along the road. Before long, she gets to the bend, and she turns with the road. And as she turns, because this is the farthest she has ever been in her life out of the village, so as she turns with the road, she sees a thick, dark forest in front of her. And so I don't know if it happens only in stories or if it happens in real life as well. But this little girl, this half girl from the village. For a moment, she thought about her life in the village, the hut, the mother, the school, all the comfort, the safety, the predictability of life in the village. She thought about it. But instead of going back, she decided to step in the forest. And so she went inside the forest. Now, how she fared and how she got to the other end, that's a different story for another time. But she came on the other side of the forest to an opening onto a beach. And it was a small beach. Across the beach, there was a deep blue ocean. She's looking at this ocean, sort of mesmerized, wanted to dip her toes in the water, and so she started walking on the beach towards the ocean. But before she could even get closer, she saw another figure coming towards her on the beach. So she was quite intrigued. She stopped and wanted to see who this was. So as this figure came closer, the half girl from the village realized that it was another girl who had a beautiful left eye, a beautiful left cheek, a beautiful left ear, a beautiful left arm, a beautiful left leg. And at this point in the story, I thought both girls probably would have been excited and ecstatic to see each other, because each one of them had what the other didn't. So it could make for quite an exchange, quite an encounter. Maybe just to learn what it is like to have left ear and left eye and left leg, or for the girl from the wild, it could have been probably quite revealing what it is like to live with right eye and right hand and right leg. There are so many possibilities that could arise from here, but that's not what happened. Surprisingly, what happened, oddly enough, as they came closer, because before they could even say hi to each other, they developed this deep contempt for each other. And instead of exchanging pleasantries, they exchanged slurs and insults. And before we know it, it turned into a fist fight. And the fist fight became so intense that they didn't realize when they had gotten so closer to the ocean. So their fight took them in the ocean. And so you would now see occasionally a hand coming up from the ocean and then being pulled down again, or maybe a face coming up, gasping for air and being pulled down again. But you could see that the struggle was still on and the fight was still going on inside the ocean this time. So it went on for a very long time, and we don't know how much time passed. It could be a few hours, it could be a few years, it could be a few decades, we don't know. But what we do know is that at the end of that, out came a beautiful, gorgeous, full woman. And they say the woman was so beautiful that if you would look at her, you would forget to blink your eyes. And they say that she was so beautiful that one should not even try to describe her beauty. And she was so beautiful that when she started tracing her way back to the village, and as she approached the forest, because she still had to go through the forest to the other end, to the village, as she approached the forest, the tigers and monkeys and bears and snakes and even honeybees and trees, they lined up on both sides of a trail they made for her. And she walked on that trail like a royalty to the other end, to her village. So as she approached her village, the door, there used to be 2 banyan trees on either side of the door. And so as she got closer to it, instead of the banyan trees, she saw a couple, an old man and an old woman, standing on either side of the door. And as they saw this full-grown, beautiful woman coming towards the village, they said, 1,000 welcomes to a full woman, because we haven't seen one in 1,000 years. And with that, they ushered her in the village. So this woman, it wasn't long ago that she was in that village. She had only left the village for a short time, or maybe perhaps for a very long time, we don't know. But when she came back to the village, she couldn't recognize it. It didn't seem like the place she grew up in, because this was a place full of only half boys and half girls, half men and half women. And these half beings were quite ecstatic, actually. They didn't know quite why, but they were ecstatic to see the full woman among them. Actually, the news of this full woman spread across the region, so all sorts of musicians and poets and singers and painters and sculptors and perfumers, they flocked to this village just to have a look at this full beautiful woman. So she was actually quite celebrated as long as she lived after that. And it is said when she died, she became a tree that used to grow new, full, huge branches with loads of leaves every spring, every year. And when days used to get unbearably hot, people used to rest under this tree. And when nights used to get unbearably cold during winter, people used to burn the branches to keep them warm during the winters. That's where we take a deep breath and let the story sink in. The story knocked at our door. We opened ourselves to it. We let it sink in, and I think it's only appropriate that we feed it now. How do we feed a story? We feed a story by asking ourselves, where do I find myself in the story? Where do I find myself in the story? And as we ask this question, some of us might find ourselves in the village quite happy with the life there. But the others might find themselves asking the questions but not finding the answers. And some others might find themselves on the beach fighting with this other half that is from the wild, who perhaps belongs to the ocean or maybe to the forest, but not to the village. And because it belongs to the ocean and belongs to the forest, maybe on the beach we are looking at this wild half and thinking, it could not be us. It does not have any place with us, because maybe we are too modern, we are too refined, we are too educated, we are too cultured, we are too civilized. This cannot possibly be us, this other from the wild. But the sad news is, if that is the case, that if we don't find a way to make peace with the other half, that other half from the wild, then the forest may not let us back out, because maybe that other half holds the key and has the secret of the forest and the secret of the ocean. And also because maybe without integrating this other half, we probably never become full men or full women. So whatever the case is, whether we are in the village happy with the life there, whether we are asking the question and not finding the answer, or whether we are on the beach busy fighting and pushing away and rejecting and denying and disowning this other half, or maybe some of us would find themselves on the way back to the village. But I would suggest that let's not rush to answer that question. Maybe we should, before we answer the question, we should take a walk with the story, or lie down with the story before going to sleep, or have a Saturday morning coffee with the story before we ask ourselves again, where do I find myself in the story?